Day 17, the isolate. Welcome. I'm Dr. Rivka Edery, author of Spatial Psy.D. In day 17, we're going to talk about the isolate. The isolate is the most misread element in the entire method. And I promised you on day 14 that we would take it apart properly. Today, we do. Here is the claim from the book, and I want you to notice how absolute it is. An isolated card is always a commentary on the cluster, not a separate thread. Always. Not usually, not in most layouts, always. That word should bother you slightly. It is the strongest word in the entire method, and I have been careful not to use words like it anywhere else. You will notice that distance only suggests that a cluster only claims that a void marks something that may be stagnation or may be avoidance. Everywhere else, the method holds possibilities open. Here, it does not. Here it says always. So today, I have to earn that word, because if I cannot, you should not accept it. And if I can, it will change how you read every layout for the rest of your life. Here is what the claim rules out. The lone card is not the outsider. It is not the intruder, not the secret, not the stranger at the edge of the field with its own separate message. It is the one telling you what the group cannot see. Let me first do justice to the reading I'm about to take away from you, because it is not stupid. It is nearly irresistible. The instinct, one card alone, far from the others. Obviously, the odd one out, the exception, the thing that does not belong, and therefore, by the logic of stories, the thing that carries the secret. That is how everyone reads it. And I want to be precise about why it seduces, because understanding the seduction is how you resist it. It seduces because it gives you a protagonist, a lone figure standing at the edge of a crowd is a story your mind already knows how to tell. It has told that story 1,000 times. In novels, in films, in every myth you absorbed before you were 10 years old. The outsider, the exile, the one who sees what the others cannot because he stands apart. And so the moment your eye lands on an isolated card, a narrative engine starts up that has nothing whatsoever to do with your table. It is running on material you brought with you. Watch what happens next. You read the isolate first, which we established on day 15 is already an error. You read it as the subject of the session, and then you read the cluster as background, as the situation surrounding your protagonist. You have inverted the reading completely. The thing that was commenting has become the thing being discussed, and the thing being discussed has been demoted to scenery. And you will not notice because the reading you produced will be coherent, moving, and satisfying. Coherence is not the test. Anything can be made coherent. And a mind supplied with a protagonist will make anything coherent around him. So let me earn the word. Why always? The argument has 3 steps, and it is airtight. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Step 1. The isolate passed the semantic filter. Think about what that means. It registered in your hands. It produced a jolt or a weight. Under the rules you have obeyed since day 1, it would not be on the table at all if it had not. Empty cards do not get placed. So whatever this card is, it is functional. It is active information, not noise, not an accident, not a card that wandered in. Step 2. And yet, your hands did not place it with the group. The same hands that assembled that cluster, that put 4 cards down close together without your conscious involvement, kept this one out. Deliberately, in the sense that matters. The placement was made by the same process, and the process separated them. Step 3. Both of those things are true at the same time. And that is the crux. The card is relevant. It passed the filter. It is separated. It was kept out of the group. Now, what kind of thing is both relevant and separated? Only one thing. Something related to the group by relevance, but not by proximity. Something connected to the situation without being inside it. That is not a separate thread. A separate thread would be irrelevant to the cluster. It would be about something else entirely. But an irrelevant card would not have passed the filter in the first place. The filter is what makes it impossible. Do you see? The card cannot be an independent story because the somatic filter has already certified that it belongs to this session, and it cannot be inside the situation because it was placed outside it. The only remaining option is, it is about the cluster from outside the cluster. That is why, always, not because I say so, because the filter and the placement taken together leave nothing else for it to be. So what does an isolate actually say? The book gives 3, and notice that all 3 are about the group. It says something about what the main group is avoiding, missing, or unable to see. What the group is avoiding. The factor is present. It is relevant. It passed the filter, and it is being kept at a distance. That is not absence. That is exclusion, and exclusion is an activity. Something is doing the excluding. What the group is missing. A factor that bears on the situation and simply has not been brought into it. Not refused, just not yet incorporated. The difference between avoidance and omission is real, and I will show you how to tell them apart in a moment. And what the group cannot see. This is the subtlest of the 3 and the most useful. It is a perspective on the cluster that the cluster from inside itself has no access to because it is inside itself. You cannot see the shape of the room you are standing in from the middle of it. Now look at all 3 together and notice what they share. Every one of them is a statement about the cluster. The isolate has no content of its own. It is not a message. It is an angle on a message. So the isolate never answers the question, what else is going on? It answers a different and much better question. What is the situation unable to account for? And that question is one the cluster is structurally incapable of answering about itself, which is precisely why the geometry put a card out there. Now, the same move I've made twice before. Open your workbook to the constellation map and read the prompt that has been sitting under it since day 1. Is there an isolated card? What is the quality of that isolation? Deliberate, expelled, or overlooked? 3 qualities named in your workbook on every page for 16 days. And I would guess you've been answering that prompt with a yes or no. Is there an isolated card? Yes. And then moving on, because the second half of the question did not seem to have an answer available. It has 3, and here they are. Deliberate. The card is holding position. It is maintaining its distance on purpose. This is the satellite from day 14 in orbit, not in exile. Something monitoring, watching, deliberately uninvolved. The distance is being maintained actively, and it is not about to close. Expelled. The card was pushed out. The group closed, and this was left outside. That is a different geometry entirely. The energy is coming from the cluster, not from the isolate. The cluster did something. It excluded. Next, overlooked. It was never brought in. Not refused, not expelled, simply not noticed. It has been sitting there the whole time, relevant, unattended. 3 completely different readings. Same card, same distance, same everything else. Now, how do you tell them apart? because that is the real question and the answer is not intuition. You tell them apart by geometry, which is what you've been training for 17 days. How do you tell them apart? By geometry, not by feel, and not by which reading you prefer. Deliberate. Look at the void between the isolate and the cluster. If the isolation is deliberate, that void is clean and wide, and nothing drifts toward it. No card sits halfway. The distance is stable, held, not accidental. That is what an orbit looks like on paper, a maintained gap with nothing wandering into it. Expelled. Here the cluster is tight, often over tight, more compressed than the number of cards requires, and the isolate sits just beyond its boundary, close enough that the exclusion is visible. That proximity matters enormously. A card that has been pushed out tends to stay near the thing that pushed it. It is not far away. It is just outside, which is a different and more painful position. Overlooked. The isolate is far, and the cluster is loose and inattentive. Nothing points at it. The cluster is not tight, so it is not actively closing anything out. The card is simply outside the field of view. Nothing is holding it away. Nobody has noticed it. Look at what those three descriptions actually turn on. The tightness of the cluster, the width of the void, whether anything occupies the space between. Distance, cluster, void. You have not been given a new skill today. I have shown you that the three signals you've been drilling since day 3, taken together, already answer a question you did not know they could answer. That is what it means for a method to have a trunk. The signals are not 3 separate observations. They are 3 coordinates, and together they locate things that no one of them could find alone.